He met a barrage of questions, and I think he was not able to cope with, with them. So it required you, Honorable Minister, to come and defend this request of 336 billion shillings at a time when our national revenues are not performing well, at a time when the country is over-indebted, and at a time when we have to implement a COVID budget, a budget that we have suppressed because of COVID. So we have invited you, together with the Minister of Finance, to justify. Yes?
Where the MPs are, where the
Okay.
we have the MPs at one side, the committee at one side, and then the stakeholders at the other side, so that it is clear who is presenting and who is
Yeah, but the ministers, you remain where you are. Mm. No. Ministers, you stay there. You are, after all, MPs. Yeah. Yeah, I think now we can identify MPs. So I think we are having MPs this side, and the technical people. Yes. So yesterday, as I was mentioning, we had a very lengthy meeting, and this matter remained pending. Additional information from the minister himself, to explain why we must spend 336 billion on buying radios for Uganda, for 9 million Ugandans. Why the 9 million? And number two, we informed that part of the consignment is to be procured locally, the other to be imported. Why are we importing if there is local capacity? And we really have local capacity. The other question was that we have appropriated money for masks countrywide. Procurement of masks to be supplied countrywide. But up to now, places we are cited that have not seen these masks, and several months since we approved that money. The other issue raised was that we have appropriated money before for supply of hose to those individual households, but to date the hose have not been supplied, and it was envisaged that a strategy to supply hose would ensure that a farmer or whoever is affected is given capacity to actually produce and buy a radio for himself or herself. Secondly, that in buying that radio, there's a question of sustainability. Who is going to supply the batteries? Because this person you are buying a radio for, the assumption is that he does not have the capacity to keep buying batteries. And you know that most batteries on the market are fake. You buy them, they last for 1 day or 2 days, and you have to buy new batteries every other day. But we are informed that these radios are solar radios, but the question was that they need to get the solar radiation during daytime, and that is the time when the teachers are teaching, are we expecting the student or the pupil to sit in the sun to attend lessons? So what were the assumptions, behind using these solar radios? So and a couple more questions, were raised. Some I cannot remember immediately, but some of the members are here. They raise them as we go along. So, Honourable Minister, I think you can now give us the details. Yes.
Thank you. But Chair, we need to know the people we are meeting.
Oh, I assumed that you knew them.
No.
I can see.
They don't know us.
They don't know you. Okay. Anyway, since you have raised it, we can introduce ourselves. My name is Amos Rugorovi, representing the people of Ntenjeru North Constituency in Kayunga, and the chairman of the Budget Committee. So,
I'm a member of Chelsea, I'm a member of Parliament.
And I'm not feeling what I represent West Sudan and North Control.
Winnie Kiza, President Kasese.
Okay. Technical people?
Julius Kabatsi, Parliamentary Party. Suleiman, Director, Budget Office, Parliament. Dennis Opoti, I'm the committee clerk.
Okay. And more will be joining us as we continue. Yes, Honourable Minister. Yes, sir.
John Chrysostom. I represent the people of Bamnani Parliament and the Minister of State in charge of higher education. I'm standing in for my senior minister.
Okay.
I'll give you the
Ndorwa. Ndora West. Okay. PS? Okay. Samugoya? Okay. Mm-hmm. Hmm.
volume.
Mustafa Ashifri, Principal Economist, Minister of Finance.
Okay. Mr. Namishi, you're welcome. So now I suggest that we proceed by requesting the Minister to make a more detailed presentation, then we can respond.
Thank you very much.
Take me the schedule and the Minister's talking points.
But please, I'd like to register my apology for our failure to attend to yesterday's meeting. The invitation came in the afternoon when almost all of us had gone out of station. And the nearest to Parliament was the officer who came in to represent us. Chair, I would like to call upon the Permanent Secretary to respond to the issues and the concerns that were raised, with your permission, Chair. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through the Honourable Minister of Education and Sports, I want to give a small background to the issue of home studying, as we call it, because, Mr. Chairman, you recall. Mr. Namisi, do you have something? Mr. Chairman, you recall that the President directed the closure of schools on the 20th of March this year as part of the measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. In order to facilitate continuity of learning and ensure that all learners across the country are reached, the Ministry of Education and Sports developed a continuity of learning framework with 3 complementary modes. These modes included delivery of live and recorded radio and television lessons, which would be broadcast by exemplary teachers, printing and distribution of home study packages, and online uploads of recorded lessons and home study materials. The first phase of continuity of learning under homeschooling was implemented for 4 weeks in May 2020 through radio and TV broadcasts, as well as provision of printed self-study materials. It focused on remedial work to consolidate concepts that the learners had already covered before the closure of the schools. And this was in anticipation that education institutions would reopen very soon. However, with the continued closure, the Ministry of Education and Sports decided that the National Curriculum Development Center now comes up with a complete coverage of materials for the entire class for the year. And this now formed the second phase. That phase, as we stand today, the learning framework and all the study materials have been successfully developed by NCDC for pre-primary, primary, and lower secondary. Materials for upper secondary will be ready for printing soon. And Mr. Chairman, these have already been uploaded on the different platforms. For example, the NCDC portal, the UNEP portal, and the Facebook page of the Ministry of Education for those who can afford to access them. The home study materials will be bound in one booklet for all the subjects for primary school learners per class. And then we shall have 2 booklets for science and then the arts for the lower and upper secondary levels. And homeschooling will also be done through radio and TV broadcasts. The radio and TV programs will be handled by UBC and other FM radio selected by UBC in areas where UBC radio signal does not reach effectively. Due to the limited budget, self-study materials will be printed for P4 to P5. The budget provided for printing under the Global Partnership for Education grant is 20.6 billion, out of the required total of 43.6 billion, which leaves 23 billion as outstanding, in addition to the 3 billion which remains unpaid to New Vision for the first phase of learning materials. Procurement of radios. Mr. Chairman, in support of the home study materials and continuity of learning program, Cabinet under Minute number 251 approved the procurement of 9 million radios for all households to be used for the facilitation of distance learning and effective health mobilization during COVID pandemic period on the 10th of June, 2020. Following the Cabinet decision, the Ministry of Education and Sports was mandated to handle the procurement process and the distribution of radios following local government COVID-19 structures. It was agreed that the Ministry should procure 5 million locally assembled radios and 4 million imported ones. The Ministry advertised the procurement for the imported and locally assembled radios on the 13th of August, 2020, but would not sign the contract until a budget has been provided, Mr. Chairman. The Ministry of Education and Sports engaged the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to avail the resource for the procurement of the radios and their transportation down to the users. The Ministry of Finance advised that the procurement process should proceed, but the PSST should be consulted prior to the signing of the contracts. We finalized the procurement and have gone back to the PSST, and he has advised that we should hold the signing until the funds are available. Mr. Chairman, that's the status so far for the procurement of radio. So the procurement is done, is awaiting signature. That signature is pending confirmation of funds. Now, Mr. Chairman, this committee raised a number of issues which you have gone through and which we got communication yesterday, Mr. Chairman. And one of them is capacity of suppliers to avail 5 million locally assembled radios within the remaining period of time. Mr. Chairman, we, as I've already stated, we put out an advert. And because we are following clear instructions that 5 million radios should be locally manufactured for a number of reasons, but one of them is to build capacity in the country to manufacture radios. And 4 should be imported. Mr. Chairman, the company selected to supply the locally assembled radios in their bid confirmed that they can deliver the required 5 million radios between 60 to 90 days after contract signing and receiving an advance payment guarantee, an advance payment of 30%. So we believe that they will be able to deliver these radios. Mr. Chairman, we got them through a competitive process as provided by the public procurement law governing. Secondly, what's the practicality of using radios given that many households have more than one learner? Mr. Chairman, we have stated that when we scheduled the continuity of learning in homes, we have a program of delivery of these lessons. They are not delivered at the same time. So we have a schedule that we follow. Some time back, we were publicizing this schedule for the parents to follow. So they will be scheduled at different times for different learners. So there will be no clash for these learners who are supposed to use these radios. And Mr. Chairman, the second thing is when our head of procurement go through the specifications, one of the elements of this radio is a recording system. It has a small, it's a chip? Where, so that lessons taught can be played back for those who have missed them, and that can again give a chance to, for example, a child in the village whose lesson, for example, was delivered when he was in the garden, to play back these lessons at his convenience. Clarity on the power sources for the radios, given that the target population has impoverished people who may fail to afford dry cells. Mr. Chairman, as you have rightly put it, these radios have different sources of power. Dry cells is one of them. They have also the solar system, and I think another,
AC/DC and solar.
AC/DC, but also, okay. So, Mr. Chairman, the solar system specified on the radio is monocrystalline material, which does not require, Mr. Chairman, to be directly under the rays of the sun. It's basically the light, but not directly under. You don't have to sit under the sun or to put it under the sun for you to pick it. So, Mr. Chairman, the children will sit in the comfort of the shades when they are learning. Or those who have power can use power, and those who have dry cells can also use dry cells. Mr. Chairman, the other issue was on maintenance, repair and maintenance. The radios to be supplied have a 2-year warranty. And Mr. Chairman, education, as you have always stated, is a shared responsibility. When government supplies Mr. Chairman, the repairs will fall, after this warranty, will fall really on the users, the parents, because I don't think government would, will have the resource and even the capacity to follow up, at every household to go and repair these radios. So, but under the warrant, Mr. Chairman, government will take that responsibility, and the 4 selected suppliers are locally registered and can be accessed for repairs as and when the need arise. Mr. Chairman, the projected costs of the radio, the imported radios are to be supplied by 4 different suppliers at a unit cost of one was 33,925. Another one is 35,435 shillings. Another one is 38,000, and the last one is 42,182. These are inclusive of VAT. The locally assembled ones are at 37,465 shillings. I would request the head of procurement talk about the delivery schedule. When are the radios going to be?
But are these prices for the same type of radio?
Mr. Chairman, they are for the same type of radio because we are doing, we standardize the specifications. But the outcome of the bid process is giving us those prices. Mr. Chairman, the question will be, why don't you give to the lowest? The quantities of radios that we are giving out cannot be delivered by one person. It will be, it will be impossible to deliver within the time given. I think that's why the committee decided that let's stagger these quantities to the different suppliers so that they can serve the purpose. Thank you very much. Yerusa, you want to come in?
After the contract committee approval, there were pre-contract discussions with the suppliers to confirm the delivery date. And they were required, the suppliers were required.
The mask. You can lower the mask.
Yerusa, come in front here, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. The suppliers were required to provide delivery schedules. We are hoping contract signing was before the end of October. And from what we received, we've summarized. 2 million are expected to be delivered by December. And another 2 million, those are the imported ones. 2 million December, 2 million January, and the 5 million between 60 and 90 days, which falls in the 3rd month.
Those are the local.
The locally assembled ones. Thank you.
Yeah, there's an issue there. The update on the roadmap for phase reopening of schools.
Mr. Chairman, update on the roadmap. Mr. Chairman, you are aware that when the schools were closed, the Ministry of Education and Sports came up with a COVID preparedness and response plan. And with that response plan, we also developed a strategy for the phased reopening and management of the reopening of schools in the country. Mr. Chairman, we started with our opening for candidate classes and finalists. And that reopening was supposed to help us also test the waters. And the waters with our SOPs we had come up with, but also how the schools are prepared, but also to prepare our parents, because, as you are aware, there was a lot of skepticism on whether we should reopen. Mr. Chairman, we have been back in school. This is our second week. So far, our schools have done quite well. We are now moving to the next stage of going back to reassess how we are doing, and that will inform our next, our next move. But as you heard, the senior minister of the Ministry of State some time back, that we want to ensure that we don't have a dead year. And therefore, with the home study materials we are sending out, we want also to go out and make sure that the children are actually learning, so that when they come back, or when we decide when they come back to school, we know that they will move to the next level. So, Mr. Chairman, we are still in the process of agreeing how we move. Now we bring on board the next set of learners, and that will be communicated in due course. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I just want to add something more over the schools. Somebody would want to know when are we opening? Chair, it's very clear that it's the inspection that will be done that will inform the ministry of what to do next. It's too early to tell right now that we are opening in December, January, whatever. It will depend on the information that will come from the inspection from the ground. It also depend on the study our scientists are making. So, but for us as a ministry, we have to go ahead and plan to have our learners learn. That's what I wanted to add, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the ministry for working hard to ensure that our children get the basics that they can from the ministry. Mr. Chairman, first of all, having received the information from the minister in regard to complete reopening, I have a few questions to ask. First is whether it was proper for the ministry, in regard to this document from the permanent secretary, whether it was proper for the ministry to even go ahead and begin engaging the suppliers before they were sure of the money. That is one question I wanted answered. The second question was, in case this procurement is allowed to continue, how will the recipients be sure of the repairs? Do we have local persons with the capacity to repair these radios just in case they get problems? The third one, Mr. Chairman, is that I feel uncomfortable saying as a committee we passed this request. One, I thought the request has come a little bit earlier than it should come. The fact that we are waiting for an assessment to be made, I think the request should now come when that assessment comes out. That look, we thought we were able to open, or we thought possibly the tests we have had using the finalists and the candidate classes have revealed that our children can go back to school, and therefore we want money. Because we may approve this money, after approving it, then the report comes out and the advice from the scientists that I think schools can open. And you are realizing the procurement is even taking us up to February, meaning that the scientists in the next 1 or 2 months, if they came up with a report saying no schools can open, there is no problem, then we shall have spent for no good cause. Instead of wasting money, Mr. Chairman, let us spend this expenditure, so that we come after the report from the scientists and maybe from the ministry, and the ministry comes here and says, colleagues, we are realizing that we cannot allow our children to go back to school basing on what we have gone through. Then we suggest that we look for money and we resume the house learning. But otherwise, I think it is too early for the ministry to begin asking for radios now.
Yes, thank you. Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Chairman. And Chair, allow me to thank the Minister for this detailed presentation that we were promised yesterday. Although, Chairman, when you read through it, you realize that the details seem to have been the same details that we were given yesterday. I am now wondering, where is the detailed detail that we were promised yesterday? Because basically all this that are given to us, the Minister of Finance yesterday gave it to us. However, in support of what my sister Winnie has just said, I want us to look at P, long distance learning, that part where the permanent secretary said the first phase of continuity of learning under homeschooling was implemented for 4 weeks in May 2020 through radio and TV broadcast. Did we have radios already for people to receive this? As well as provision of printed self-study material. So this has been going on. What has been the assessment of that which has already taken place? What is your assessment? As people's representatives, we are aware that the study materials, you put us to pressure to allocate money to buy. I don't know, in my constituency anyway, I don't think even 50% of the people received it. So I don't know what has been your assessment of this so far, this first phase, so that you can tell us now we're moving to the second phase where we want what? Radios. Can you first give us your assessment of the what? Of this first phase? And when you were communicating through radios, how were those learners receiving that information when they didn't have what? Radios. Number two, Chair, I want straight to go to yesterday when the officer that you sent here was presenting. One, he said, he gave us an overview, and this is the information he said he was conveying from the ministry. And it was in relation to the opening, the roadmap. He said a review will be conducted after what? 2 months. From the date of opening, which you have, the minister I think has affirmed it, that a review will be conducted after a period of what? 2 months. And it's after that review that other things will what? Will come in. I don't know whether the review now is within your own enclaves that you have decided that radios should quickly be procured so that it facilitates the learning, because you are no longer aware that opening the term will be in the immediate effect. I mean, in the immediate soon. I want now to go to the procurement of radios, for learners. The minister advertised the procurement for the imported and locally assembled radios on the 13th, but would not write the contract until the budget is provided. I think my sister Winnie has already alluded to this. You already know the procurement, how it is conducted, procurement planning. This is something that you could have, looked at the law. How do you start, moving the process even before you are sure that the money has come? Suppose you have already moved that process and you're saying you're just awaiting for the signing of the contract. Supposing we don't give the money, what happens? Because the guys might have already started what? Putting the equipment to assemble radios. People have already started moving, possibly loading the radios. Supposing we don't what? Release the money. What happens to you? Or what happens to this country? Have you envisaged that? No. regarding the responses of the concerns that we raised yesterday, you are talking of the capacity, and you are telling us within 60 to 90 days we should be able to deliver. But, Chairman, this is an urgency. The way we are being told that this is very urgent, this is so important. It's like as soon as we release money, the radio should be with the learners next week. But then they are again giving us 60 to 90 days. Within 60 to 90 days, the review should have taken place. Maybe you could have easily decided what? To open up the schools. So where is the urgency here now? What's the relationship between the time of delivery given here and the review that you have set within 2 months? Because you've already opened, it's nearly a month since you opened the what? The schools. So it's just remaining 2 months. When we approve the money, it may take another 1 week to get the one. Then from that time, we count 60 days. Wouldn't the review have taken place? Wouldn't you have decided on what next strategy you are supposed to do, rather than committing government into wasting this money? Practicability of using radios, given that many households have more than one learner. Sincerely, Honorable Minister, I could be having 7 children. Each of those kids is in a different class. P7, maybe he's already at school. P6, P5, P4, P1. You give me, yes, you give me one radio, assuming that you are giving me one radio. When the one of P5 is learning, what are the other ones doing? Tell us, when the one of S3 they are busy teaching, what are the other ones doing? And yet, you cannot arrange in such a way that there is a day for S2, time for what? You're not going to meet the schedule. You're not. So it should be that maybe at one time there's S3, S4, P7, P1 learning. But you are giving one radio. Tell us the practicability of this program with one radio and several what? Learners. In fact, Chair, the issue with us here is not a question of radios, unless you're adding us radios, but the radios we have. And I remember the Honorable Minister and even the Honorable Minister of Education, you were in the floor of Parliament telling us how many radios, how many telephones, how many TVs people have in villages.
Yeah.
And you were convincing us that these people, to a certain percentage, have this. And that's when you wanted us to defend the study materials.
Yes.
You convinced us that there is this method of communication already in the village. You were there on record, both of you. And we did accept, okay, if they are already there, please, let's go ahead and endorse the study material. What has happened that a turnaround now, you have come here to say, these people don't have radios, so we have wasted the money for the study materials. Let's first buy the study material. Are we being told the truth? Are we genuine? You are telling us about maintenance. With maintenance, I just shudder. You're going to give somebody a radio of 28,000, and then you are talking of a warranty on a permanent secretary. A warranty, which is maybe given by Sembule here in Kampala. You are going to get a radio of 28,000. When it gets spoiled, you are going to spend 70,000 from Kumi to Kampala to bring the radio to repair and go back.
No, it may not be repaired that day.
It may not be repaired that day. You may need another 2 days of lining, sleeping in a hotel. Sincerely, what is this? Besides that, Chairman, when you look at the cost, those of us who were here yesterday, the officer who was sent gave us some cost that these radios for locally manufactured, for local assembled, is going to be 27. I think that's what he said. For local assembled, it's going to be 27. And we took his statement because he said he's even a member of the Committee of Radios. He said for the locally procured, it's going to be 27. For those that are going to be imported, it's 38.
Yes. He said he was in charge.
He said it and gave it. All of a sudden, only a few hours after that, figures have changed. Go to number 5. Figures have changed for local assembly. It is now 37,000 from 27. For imported, maybe still around there. What is happening? What are you trying to tell us? And this is the guy who spoke yesterday and said he's a member of the committee of what? Of radio.
In charge of procuring radio.
And when we even tried, Mr. Chairman, it was on record, and when we even tried, Mr. Chairman, to do a computation of the costs that were given yesterday. At 27, if you brought how many? 5 million, you get, I think, 130 something. When you add it to 4 million at 38, you get, when you total it, you get around 287 billion, which is even 50 or more short of what they have asked for. What is the rationale of asking for 340 anyway, when the actual cost of the radio, even if we took that price, is around 287? What is this? What is going on? Finally, Chair, although I have many, I'll leave others also to discuss others. I want to comment on the proposed work delivery schedule. First 2 million in December. And I hope that's when the learning process will start.
Yeah.
They have not told us that we shall wait until all people receive what? Radios and we start learning. They have not told us. We even wonder what they came to, why they gave us this. Because they should first tell us, what are they going to do? Are they going to finish delivering radios to every learner or every household before they start learning? Or as soon as they deliver the 2 million, they start learning? If that is the case, you deliver 2 million to people and you start learning. What happens to the rest of the people who have not yet received the what? The radio.
Yeah.
Please be sincere to us and tell us this is not somebody's deal. And tell us this is not somebody's deal. Because you cannot tell us that December 2 million, January 2 million, February 5 million. We are not even sure of the capacity of this local assembly radios. We are not quite sure. Life and death, we're told that before the lockdown is relaxed, within 1 or 2 weeks, we're going to procure masks for people. Up to today, people don't have masks. What is now the capacity that we have built that we can all of a sudden manage to deliver radios? Honorable members, let's be sincere. Let's look at this critically. Let's discuss this critically. This can be planned. This expenditure can be suspended until these people finish the 2 months and then do the review and see whether it's necessary or not. This country needs a lot of money for other things. Still, masks are there. Hospital equipment is needed. Drugs, people are dying of COVID. It's rather like the president said, these children live than die, rather than us what?
That schools can
Using this money. I thank you.
Thank you so much. We discussed the details. I think it is important also to indicate whether we are doing the principle.
Okay.
Radio should be
No. Charles, you state your principle.
We discussed the details.
State your stand.
The principle, no, I don't agree. Radio is not a necessary expenditure right now.
Yeah. You don't like me to do this, yeah.
I wanted someone who would water down with it.
Yeah.
Why do you want to know?
On which side we cannot water down?
He's going to
No,
water
but Chair has not known what I'm going to say. Now let me. I wanted to say something different, but now let me say the opposite. Now, since Chair, I had a different. But now let me say the other one because Chair has doubted me.
No.
So thank you, Chair, and I want to thank my colleagues for the contributions they have made, and I want to thank the Minister for the wonderful presentation and the technical team. You know, Chair, yesterday, when this team came, we gave our position. But we said we needed to make a decision. And for us to make a decision, we needed to be guided so that we can make an informed decision for the good of this country. The challenge we have is that we took an oath. We took an oath for being a member of parliament and to serve this country. Now, that's where the challenge is. We wanted certain information from the ministry, which unfortunately, I do not know why they are shy. Instead, they are contradicting what they gave us yesterday. Now, Honorable Chair, you do recall that yesterday, and these are the issues we're asking these people. They were not here though. Yesterday, we interfaced with UBC.
You apologize. It's okay.
I wanted to give that information because, as I said to the chair, Yesterday, we got the information in the afternoon. All of us were out of station. The gentleman who came in was picked on.
No, Honorable Minister. No, Chair, procedure, Chair. Procedure, Chair. Chair, procedure. Procedure, Chair. Procedure, Chair. Let me first raise the procedure issue. The Minister, yesterday, that gentleman, he said, he even told us that there is a committee of radios, of which he was, I think, the secretary or something, chairman or some of the radio committee. And that gentleman is Alex. Alex is there. Yes, he's around. Derek. And was they accompanied the minister. And actually, yesterday, the minister had chosen, the Minister of Finance, had chosen to speak on behalf of his colleagues. In fact, you were not even supposed to appear. It is we who insisted. That why? Yes, Honourable Minister.
The one who requested.
We can rest that. So I don't know whether it is in order for the minister now to come and start disowning his own staff who represented his ministry and was very authoritative, and we believed him. That's why we are even quoting the information given to us yesterday from the ministry. And that now poses a challenge, Honourable Chair. That poses a challenge. That means we should now be very careful with whatever is coming from this ministry, because they do not have a definite position. Even these things they are telling us, tomorrow they are going to change, because these are just haphazard arrangements which are not anchored on any proper planning, on any proper forecast, and they don't even know the outcome. But what I was going to...
Procedure will first sort it. Chair, the procedure issue arises from what the minister just said. He actually said the gentleman who was sent here yesterday was picked. Just. It's like they just looked at the road and said that one is handsome enough to go and face it. Let's get clear. Whether it's English or whatever, but instead he was picked.
So the information
So
was just
this committee
So we should
is such a
disregard.
useless what? Where any other person can be picked to go and appear before the committee.
That committee is my seat. I wanted to inform this house.
As well, he picked anybody.
from the road.
We have presented, that's the position of the Minister of Education. And I'm praying that we take it as that.
We disregard the one of
So we
yesterday.
disregard the one of yesterday, Mr.
Chair, I'm still on the floor, and all members are raising on the
Another
procedure.
procedure matter.
Take note of that.
Another procedure matter, Mr.
That's
Chair.
not the contradiction as information was.
But it should be noted, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we are not.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, procedure. Mr. Chairman, whether the mask is on or not, we can still pass the message. Mr. Chairman, the minister has just said that we disregard the information which was given yesterday. And yet, in the response that has been read by the permanent secretary, he is answering queries that were raised yesterday. If we are disregarding yesterday's representative from the ministry, then it means they go back and even look at
Their submission. Recast.
Because supposing we had passed it yesterday, would you have disregarded it? Honorable Chairman, this deflates the staff who represented the ministry. It kills the energy to work. To the extent that next time, if it is not the minister coming, an officer from the ministry will refuse to appear before the committee. And we are not going to allow anybody to come, because even Janet may come tomorrow and say what the state minister said I'm disregarding. So maybe we just wait for Janet to appear before the committee so that we know we are dealing with a senior minister. You can start disowning your own staff.
Yes.
The Minister of Education. The Minister of Education and the First Lady of this Republic. So, Mr. Chairman, if in the view of the minister, he thinks yesterday's representative was not substantive enough to appear before this committee, and he says we disregard his presentation, then I pray that even this presentation that is answering yesterday's concerns.
Yeah, maybe we first
keep
rule on that.
pending.
Chair, maybe let me first wait for the ruling.
We first wait for the ruling.
No, but we wanted to give information, Chair.
Yeah.
But there was a procedure matter which you can.
It was a procedure matter.
Procedure matter which you can vote on.
But also in procedure you can get information. So that
Okay.
the next
No problem.
Is it an informational procedure? Which rule are you quoting?
We need guidance on the procedure.
No, let the chair first guide us.
Then you can give information, Mr. Chair. Tell us under which rule you are moving, Honorable Minister. Under which rule? Under which rule?
Both of us.
That he confirmed that these are the figures. Can you repeat? We noted. Can you repeat and confirm? He said, yeah, you know that the figures. Now having reconfirmed, and after a few hours, we are seeing the new figures.
very many figures.
And very many figures, and suggesting that radios could be bought, the same radio could be bought at 33,000, the same radio could be bought at 42,000. It raises a lot of suspicion about what is happening. And it leaves this committee in a very precarious situation on what exactly is the right picture, with the right position about the pricing of these radios. But honorable members, this is information that we have now gathered, and we shall develop our opinion based on the facts that we have now on table. Because what we are doing is that we are probing to obtain what? Information, the basis of which we shall take a decision on this matter.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, thank you for that wise ruling. Chair, let me just develop my point I was trying to raise here. Chair, yesterday, the issue, I'm not comfortable, Chair, with the position of the ministry. For instance, when you look at their work plan, they are talking about delivering these radios in starting from December, January, up to February. Now, Chair, the first issue we need to realize here. Sorry?
Some they will begin in February. February. 5 million radios.
They'll begin in another 3 months. Okay. So Chair, yesterday, even given that, Chair, yesterday when the minister was appearing here, the first question you asked the minister for the source of funding for this supplementary, and the minister said that it will be funded by the loan request which he tabled before the House. Even as we speak now,
The money is not.
that loan has not been considered. That loan, the committee has not been presented a report to the House. The House has not considered. And this House, our rules do not allow us to debate on anticipation and make decisions on anticipation. So even for the procurement officer to say that they're working upon the assumption or that for them, they expect to sign the contract in October or end of October is illegal, because, Honorable Chair, as we speak now, even that money is not there. In fact, the other time we faced a hard time presenting the other budget request, and we only convinced the House that the loan was going to be considered, the source of the funding was going to be handled, and it has not been handled. Even as I speak now, the Committee of National Economy has not yet approved that loan. Now, Chair, that means that even these schedules that they are working on, cannot work, and this is what we were telling them yesterday. But also look at this, Chair. Yesterday, UBC appeared before us, and UBC was requesting for money. What was UBC's argument? UBC was saying that you're going to have presidential candidates, and there are many. He said, in fact, I remember the ED was saying, the moment there are more than 5, then is finished, because he will not provide the time for all the 5. But as we speak now, I believe more than even 5 candidates have been nominated. Vetted. So, Chair, the question is, between November and between November, December, January, these are political times. We are going to have political campaigns. The UBC we are relying on, because at page 2 they are saying they are relying on UBC. UBC is telling you they don't even have sufficient time for the candidates. So there will be no sufficient time to deliver learners, and there's nobody at that time. Even the
More information. Mr. Chairman and honorable members, let me give the honorable member information. You see, honorable members, committee does not operate in normal matters, or we think that we just do things without the law. There is no law governing UBC against the other radio stations. So UBC, the friend I want to give you, UBC cannot be supervisor of other radios in this country, because they are all under communication.
That is the radio the government has said
That
is going
is
to
not,
use.
it's impossible, Mr. Chairman. There is no contract you can give UBC to manage the other radios when they are giving them business to run. Because each radio is independent of itself and has its own management. They can only meet under Uganda Communications Commission. That's the point I'll give you before I get.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that information. But that notwithstanding still, the question is, even if there was to be an arrangement, the time, they don't have air time, even for political candidates alone. Remember, we are going for scientific elections, whereby all the members of parliament are going to use radios. All the councillors are going to use radios. LC5 chairpersons are going to use radios. Presidential candidates are going to use radios. So, Chair, practically, what I am saying, this program is not tenable between now until after general elections. And that's why we said yesterday that given the practicality of the situation at hand, why don't you go and replan and recast? So that maybe after the review, because the good thing there's even going to be a review. You never know. Maybe after the review, we are through with the general elections, this committee is not running away, parliament is not going to be dissolved. We shall be here. You come in February. If now you have done the proper review, you have got everything in record, you say now we are ready to proceed, elections we are done with it, people can now focus on running. Then we shall consider, you'll give us your studies, we look at what you have done, your roadmap, we give you the money. What is the hurry? You are making us become suspicious. If really this money is for learning, there's no learning which can take place in November, in February, in December, and in January. It's not there. Actually, we don't even know when the presidential elections will take place, because the dates are going to be given to us after their nominations. So not until we are through with all these general elections, you cannot use this media to focus on learners. And you know all this. You are Ugandans. You are not foreigners. You are living in this country. You are making us very suspicious. So, Chair, I personally think there is something which we are not being told. Why are you rushing? I was saying that can we face these things? Okay, fine. You face it. Go and do the computations. Answer the queries we are raising. Have enough time. Because even where are you going to get the people to deliver these materials? Printing was cheaper and you couldn't afford it. Printing materials, just you're talking about 140,000, 140 billion. Now, you are behaving in a very clear way. You cannot afford 40 billion, you want to spend 300 billion. Does it make sense? Education people? Really? Are you the one educating our children? Are you mentoring this country really? If we cannot see it in you, then we are worried of the future of this country. Because really, that you cannot afford 40 billion, too expensive, 300 billion is cheaper. I don't know what sense it does. So for me, I think, Chair, given that they haven't disowned these figures, but will help us in making our decision, where you found that yesterday they gave us a different thing, today they come, change overnight. Now that still raises the issue of, I am very, very suspicious of this thing. I'm very suspicious. I want to, and by the way, who told you that the country needs? Where's the needs assessment? Give us the needs assessment you made that Ugandans want radios. Give us, where is it? Where's the needs assessment? Ugandans don't need radios. Ugandans have radios. Even these phones you see have got radios. You go to these children, all of them are listening to radios. Even if you go in the streets here, everywhere, you go to the villages. For us, we are in the villages. For you stay in Kampala here, for us, we are from the villages. These fellows, radio is not their problem. Chair even told you, the chair even told you that you give these parents a hoe each, for instance. They will produce and buy even much bigger things than a radio. You cannot even afford to give Ugandans a single handy hoe per family, but which is of just mere 7,000. But you're very excited and eager to buy a radio which they don't need at 40 what? At 42 million shillings. You cannot give a Ugandan a radio, a hoe of 10,000. And you want to give me a radio which he doesn't need. Really, what kind of planning is this for this country? So, Chair, for me, my stand is simple. I can only support this program if it is for after elections. For now, Ugandans don't want this radio. Period.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on the first page, second last paragraph, we are informed about the phase of learning on radio, which started in May. It was conducted in May. Government started this radio teaching program in May. There was not a single radio provided to anybody. But they believed that communities have some radios. So they can go ahead and teach, and the teaching was going on, believing that the children actually were receiving the lessons via their own radios. When the minister was asked about this, he told Parliament a justification. He gave Parliament a justification why it was important to have these radio lessons. And he supplied us with that information of showing how many radios we have, how many TVs we have, how many mobile phones we have, and so on and so forth. It was you, Honourable Minister, who provided that information to us, meaning that actually you found it viable to have these lessons through radios which you had not procured. So many households, according to your information, have got these radios. If they do, what is the necessity of buying every household a radio where there is already a radio? If we already have, say, 5 million radios, why should we buy 9 million radios when 5 million households already have the radios? So I think this thing, honestly, is very highly suspicious, Mr. Chairman. On the last page, yesterday, Mr. Chairman, towards the closure of the meeting, I asked you that we need this confirmation from the official who came to confirm and put it on record as far as the costs of radios were concerned. It was a specific question, just one question. Confirm the costs of these radios on record. And he repeated the same, telling us the 27,000 for locally manufactured radios and the 38,000 for imported radios. Mr. Chairman, when you look at the figures given to us today, it means each radio has been inflated by 10,000 shillings for a locally manufactured radio. 10,000 shillings, almost 30% from what was given to us yesterday. From a person who was speaking from authority, a position of authority, saying he had been, in PACOB, now he had been in another meeting, so he has now come to present on his committee, which he heads. So I think we are being taken for a ride. Honourable Minister, let us be sympathetic to the communities of this country.
Information.
Let us be reasonable to our country. God has entrusted us with this country. How can we really justify this expenditure? Mr. Chairman, 340, let me put it at 340 billion shillings for radios could construct almost 200 kilometers of tarmac in this country. Mr. Chairman, the evaluation has not been done to see or to come to a conclusion that these schools will not actually open in January or February. But yesterday we were informed that even if children go back to school, still it will be necessary to have the radios at home. Then the question is why? These children will be in school. They go and attend their classes and then come back home when they are tired, those of the schools. The boarders will be in boarding schools. Why would it be necessary for us to say carry on even if schools are opening up in January or February? Mr. Chairman, I want to conclude by saying that this information should be highly doubted. There is no reason for us really to believe this information here. Many questions surround the figures, and I think we may not really make a conclusion in the affirmative to confirm this request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yesterday we had an in-depth discussion and we raised the questions. Mr. Chairman, this discussion, first of all, I want to pray that we take it on very smoothly and take more time and understand properly. Mr. Chairman, I want to dwell on a few points. One is that, as the minister presented in Parliament, this radio running has been on. And for us who come from villages who have monitored it, first of all, I want to report that it is not effective and it is not doing anything serious. Pupils are not running on radios. Although the shows have been there, because they have not done any assessment, we don't have any assessment from them. The ministry itself has not a single mechanism in place to monitor how the radio running is happening. There is no DEO, there is no inspector, there is no GISO, there is no LC1 who is monitoring his village to know that pupils are actually running via radio. Secondly, there is this assumption that radios are going to break the jinx of running during COVID. I do not believe that these radios are going to be available for all levels of education, because we are looking at the spectrum of education in Uganda from pre-primary, primary, secondary, post-secondary, and so at least if I was told that these radios are for primary only, I would agree.
Where's university?
But not university, not HS. If I was told radios are for P1 to P5, those who can play with the radio, I would agree. But this one cannot happen, and it is not happening, and it is not a solution. Mr. Chairman, I only have a few memories which are not recorded here. I think the president of this country, to know it should have been given some figures, and because I saw the president announcing these radios, and nobody's telling us that. Maybe if this one is coming from the angle of a pledge by the president, because I know the president made the pledge, maybe we should look, are we working technically or we are working politically?
Politically.
We either work politically to make the presidential pledge real, because I saw the president making that pledge, and I also saw him inspecting a factory either in Namanzi with Honorable Anita, which was making the radios. And one of the officials said, actually, these radios are going to be used for education. Therefore, we need to know, are we fulfilling a presidential pledge or the technical requirement by the Ministry of Education? Mr. Chairman, I also want to make a request that last time we had here... No, they will answer, because I want us to take time. Mr. Chairman, let's take time on this matter, even if it is a whole week. Mr. Chairman, last time we discussed a similar matter of industrialization, where industry is concerned. We visited the UWID Center, and we saw what they were doing before we gave them the money, and we are satisfied. Can we look at these radios where they're being, where is the sample? I wish there was a sample here.
The way they're describing it.
If there is no sample, why can't we visit at least where the radios are being made and we see?
Let them make one.
Because
We'll
for
see.
me, if you tell me a radio is going to have AC, is going to have solar, is going to have everything, even that one makes it more complex for management in the villages.
More expensive.
I would want a simple radio that is manageable by the local people. But the AC, solar, it has everything. It is as if it is, itself is a factory.
It's of high tech, so it doesn't use
You
direct
are, you are
light.
now trying to convince us because of the high tech, but the high tech is not necessary in the village. That's what we are talking about to
Honorable
maintain.
Gabriel, it's of high tech because even doesn't use direct light.
Doesn't
It can
use
get from,
direct
direct from the sun. Even when you are here.
Can we look at these radios, Mr. Chairman? Because I've not seen a radio which is like self-made, it's like a robot. Maybe to even teach it will give you the...
Here from the engineer.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think we should also have a sample of the radio or go and see the factory like we did with Uganda Industrial Research Institute recently. Mr. Chairman, these figures here on number 5, projected cost, first of all, we have been told that, you see the language, I'm not a lawyer and my English is not very good, but I also know some things technically. If you say that the projected cost, projected is estimation.
It's not exact.
But you have evaluated, you have a bid, you have awarded. Why don't you give us the best evaluated cost of them so that we confirm it with the cost? When somebody tells projected, that means it will change. It was a projection, and it can even... Then on these figures, apart from the other question which was raised yesterday, because yesterday we got a figure of 27 and 38, the figures have changed, but can we also have the numbers allocated to the figures? That we say 2 million radios are at 33,000, the other 1 million radios are for this, so that because if you just leave it like this, someone will just decide to put all the cost into the upper, at 42 into the upper limit. So this is vague. And Mr. Chairman, this story we shall discuss and support and all that, but we have examples to get worried of in this country. Do you remember the bicycles of LCs? This was the same story. Apart from the masks and the these were promises. We are talking of promises. I mean, apart from the masks which have not come, and the hose and what, but also remember the LC bicycles. This was the same saga in the procurement of the same LCT bicycles. Because you look at the distribution schedule, you are putting the bigger quantity in the end. That means actually people are just using our own money. The financial capacity of the manufacturers and importers is also in doubt. Because if you had the financial capacity, why wouldn't you supply much more during the first time, the first batches? You are putting the bigger volume of the supplies at the end.
60%.
That means there is a question of capacity and capability. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, for me, I want us to know, take time, move around, get all the figures, exhaustively discuss this matter so that we don't rush it. We look at the samples, we get the study, the results, whether the radios are effective and all that, and we look at the work plan. Then we make an informed decision. Otherwise, this may end up being a hoax, and we do not want to be part of this. But nevertheless, I want to say that, Mr. Chairman, we are concerned that our children must study. We are concerned, but we need an appropriate method which is cost-effective and can help this country. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a member of Parliament for Kalungu County West, though not a member of the Budget Committee. But I know the rules provide me chance. That's why you are giving me this room. Actually, I had not come with this coat, but when I heard about this issue, I had to rush to the Winton to buy an old coat. Lest I would be sent out of this committee.
But you have not acted.
No, I'm dressed casually, and I fear lest you would have chased me, so that's why I'm putting on a jacket, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Chairman, fortunately, I'm a member of the Education Committee, and I am an educationist. There's no question about say when we talk about teaching. People know that I'm a teacher, and I have full research as we talk now. If you need Mr. Chairman tomorrow, I will provide it from my constituency, because I sent a team out to investigate on the teaching, learning of children on radio, and I have all the statistics which are giving negatives everywhere. Why, Mr. Chairman? Members, many of these communication companies or radio stations are shifting from the old system where they have to play death announcements and everything. They are restructuring their programs because they look for listenership. Now, when you go for listenership, Mr. Chairman, majority of the young people are not interested in what is being taught, but what is interesting on the radio music. The moment you put anything about learning, announcements, they dash off. That's why televisions, like NTV has gone to Spark, has brought what, because they are looking for those particular people who are not following them based on the programs. Mr. Chairman, I have evidence, and the minister will testify here. UBIS has been running radio programs on teaching children, and they have not paid the teachers who are running these programs for almost now 6 months. And teachers are demanding. 2, when you talk about radios, Mr. Chairman, who is going to manage the radio in the home? Do we have any regulation that will be followed in a home? That in Sewungu's home, Minister of Education is aware that there are 5 children in P6, there are 3 children in Senior 1, because there are people who are having more than those children, a big number in their homes. So when the radio is given to this home, who is in control? Is it the parent, or the child of P7, or the one of Senior 1? Where's the regulation? And how will they monitor? Because radios, maybe Radio 1, CBS at this time is running a primary program, and the other radio is running a secondary program. But the house has 3 children, one in P7, one in P4, and the other one in Senior 3. Who is going to be managing that program and the radio at that particular time? Then, Mr. Chairman, what should be done by this committee honorable members is passing a supplementary for preventive facilities in schools and registration fee for private schools and government at this time. I don't know how many calls you have got, honorable members, from your supporters. Normally, I don't call them voters because we put them solo. From your supporters, the money being charged for registration as we talk now, many students can't fail to go back because of the money. Now, when you got the procurement cycle, Mr. Chairman, you know it very well, and I'm addressed to it myself. Yes, you advertised. By the time you conclude the procurement cycle, to get the one who wins the bids, definitely COVID will have been reopened to go back to schools. As we talk now, there is no child who is in a candidate student at Nakasero Primary School, Uganda Road, who was tested before going back to school. Nobody. And we need that answer. If you never tested the children going back, they are attending school, they are studying, they are moving in taxis, in rural areas they are studying, then how do you tell us that you cannot teach again? These are the areas we are asking the ministry. That where is your research? Me, I'm more interested, Mr. Chairman, in seeing this committee giving a supplementary for registration. Honorable members, the issue of registration of candidates who are permitted to go back to school is pertinent. Is pertinent. Then, go back to your homes, Mr. Chairman. Visit your people. We are all people looking for votes. Look at the type of radio that costs 30,000. Those are the ones which break very easy. They will not even signal some areas. They will not pull signals. I wanted to bring them, but I never knew that the committee was sitting. I would have brought the one I have at home. At Salama Road, the Kasimo Road I have, it has refused to signal some radios like Simba and others. When you put in 88, 89 comes in.
You hang it up.
You are hanged up. So all those should be given attention. Then, I don't know how Mr. Chairman, our committee will remove when the ministry is giving how they opened up bids on 13th August 2020, but they're not attaching a copy of that advertisement they gave. Have you looked at it, on our members? Where is the advertisement attached? This committee does not work in speculation. You must attach. But I want to assure you that by the time you conclude the cycle with those who will make appeals before you pass the procurement, there will be problems. I am on the floor of Parliament. I laid documents from National Curriculum Development Center that were given to schools that were not matching the standard of education. I gave them on the floor of Parliament, and I laid them, and I asked the minister, they never came to substantiate, that the P1 children are given materials which are written like the font is a New Vision style for P1 kids. That one is not fair. For us in the P1, we don't teach children by showing them someone's face physically, but we use sticks to make it a human being. But that's what we are giving. All those are issues that should be looked at. Mr. Chairman, as I conclude, I pray very hard to this committee. You see, in this country, there are people who are very, as members have stated, there are people behind this deal. And it will mature. But the name is going to hit you as a committee. It's really mature. People have already put in their deals to procure these radios. They are going to make differences. And at the end of the day, there will not be any effectiveness of these radios. Now, I want to ask you, Mr. Chairman, when I mean you are an educationist, I'm an educationist. National Cultural Development Center, you are here. Tell us the truth. Will the radios be effective in teaching? And where is your research? Give us your research. Because you don't just come to the committee, Chair Amos Rugolobi, my brother. You think you just pass money anyhow. As I conclude, I don't support, I only agree to give Minister of Education a supplementary for registration fee and the money to buy materials to place at schools. So that when children go back, they have buckets to wash their hands, they have sanitizers, and all those necessities that can be run by school. Otherwise, with radios, you are just pumping a dead body with a lot of medicine so that it can arise. There's nothing. I want to assure you, and I will challenge you. I will come back to Parliament and tell you that this radios, because as we talk now, Mr. Chairman, not many radios have all the different languages used in different areas. I don't know whether members you know that. If you go to your region to say that you are teaching a child, there are languages you will use, maybe Luo or what, then Unyankole Unyakitara, then English. Most of the owners of these radios don't have those people who can run them. And you will not be able to pay these teachers as they teach. Because even these people, we asked them in the committee to give us samples of those CDs, the recordings they have made in the National Cultural Development Center. We look at them, we are teachers, we internalize them, we say, oh, this material, yes, is good for P1. But it's not, they are not producing them. Even the budget committee you are here, have you seen an CD from the ministry? Nothing. Saying that, for P1, this is what we are going to put on the radios. Mr. Chairman, there is nowhere these things are shown. Not in the Committee of Education, not in there. So if you give them, as I sit down, money to set schools are dilapidated. Some of them have got anthills, and you know, for you in Kayunga, we are for, but if you go to Nakasero here, and you find the toilets cannot be cleaned, I have been there, and I have the pictures on my phone. In Nakasero here, in Kampala. So why don't we first get money to cater for schools, prepare them for coming back next year, then private schools, candidates, and, but the people are paying, they are charging them money. So, as sniffer dogs of Parliament, members of the budget committee, can you sniff and find out those who are going to choose? Because I know Minister of Education needs the money, somebody else will take the money. Somebody else. You can see finances here, it's not going away. But they are not leaving the ministry to manage their supplementary. Because these people should be running their supplementary with themselves. But finances here, is it assuring? If you give a supplementary, do you need the finance ministry here? The answer is in abstract. You don't. They are supposed to release money as per the committee. Oh, so, but I'm not a member, but I am entitled to my opinion. So, I'm sniffing as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I got the next code. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Good thing. I also sit in the Committee of National Economy. And we have been looking at that loan request of 6.6 trillion, of which this is part of it. I think my attendance of this meeting has enriched and informed me so much. But of course, I'm a regular committee member of the Budget Committee. Chairperson, what disturbs me is if we can fail to supply masks, which cost 3,000, 4,000, and it's just a piece of cloth. Up to date, there are only about 50 districts that have partially received the masks. Masks of 3,000. I think the last consignment which was sent where my district belongs, Serere district, where they sent 285,160 masks. But even when they arrived there, the committee that they are considering here that will supply the radio, distribute the radios, the district local government COVID task force, even the mask they failed. They had to ask us, the members, that we should provide transport, we must provide money to enable them to distribute, take these things to the sub-county or to parish level. When it reaches there, the LOC ones were called, they say, we need to be given lunch. The easiest person to punch is the member of parliament. It's a politician. But if those are the masks which just cost that, what about this complicated, those in a simpler form, radio, which is going to cost us whatever figure they have talked about? Are you really sure that this can be distributed within the period specified here? But good enough, most people who have spoken, the Minister of Education is called Hewongo, and most of the people from the Minister of Health are people who are educationists. They studied their curriculum, education curriculum, and what. Is this part which, is this radio education part of what they studied? And if they studied, how effective is this? You need to live in the rural area. And if not in the rural area, you live in the slum, or take a research, do a research in the slum where you find those children and see whether what has been taking place has taken place. I was with my sub-county chairperson regarding the materials. They were only able to receive a copy each. The sub-county, a copy each. If we have not fulfilled that part, how can we be sure that this can be implemented? I think we can, as politicians, we can have views, ideas on how to help. But it should be, a leader will give a view. The technical people should be able to do a study, a research, and advise the leader. You saw what happened to the bicycles. It was during at the time of the campaigns when FDs was putting pressure during the campaign. That's when the government came saying, no, we're going to provide LC1s with the radios, with the bicycles. They did not go into study. The technical people from local government jumped into it. Finance could not say no. Some people are in prison because of that. Up to date, the people who did not receive bicycles have not received. And I suppose the people are going to go to prison because of the masks. Like they have gone for food. So what happened to OPM? Now the radios, PS, it's just a caution to your ministry. People will go to jail, Honorable Minister. You saw what happened with the Global Fund, Honorable Minister. You may not survive also. So let us be cautious about the things. We should be able to do a study, understand whether this can be something. But from the past experiences, yesterday, Mr. Bagala, Dr. Bagala from the Private Sector Foundation, when he met our committee, said the timing, the source of the funds, named all things of this is misplaced. And he gave the examples like we have given, where we have failures. Because the politician or the president makes a statement and we jump in. I think, and the Minister of Finance, Minister of Education have courage to tell the president, yeah, let us study the thing. You remember the issue of the pads, sanitary pads? It also came during the same period, type of period. So for me to commit, that's why Honorable Gabriel was saying, is this a political pledge or is it a professional, technical thing? We love our children to go to school, but is this the best? We don't want them to be half-baked. We don't want to give advantage to some people to take the money. Supplying these radios here, they cannot be done, see, because manufacturing a radio, and we're talking about 9 million. I don't think it can be just done, even if assembling. The supply chain, because of COVID, has been interrupted. It's not easy. So to have all this, the other people who manufacture, because each is not manufactured by one company, to manufacture the different part of the radio, and then sent, brought to Uganda, assembled here. Do we even have the technical people, the labor force, to do the assembling in this country? Do we have? Because the last time I had here was the assembly group which was handling the radios. I don't know whether we have any of recent that makes radios. Because it was like, it has gotten off market. People are instead using their phones. These ordinary radios here have limited market because technology has changed. We are now using the phones. People are using the phones. So won't be an easy thing. We would rather use this money for something. Let the Ministry of Education take a study, understand these things properly. Where has it worked? Has it worked well? My colleague here has stated the issue of the distribution. I mean, not the distribution. It looks like we're only looking at from P4 to S5. What about the lower class? Have we forgotten about them? Have we forgotten about them? The scientists, we had the president talk about the report from their scientists, which give us hope. We have heard from the US that maybe by December, we could have got a vaccine. Suppose we get a vaccine, because that's the target I've given by December, by January. Do we still need the radios? Because there's that prospect that by December, January, February, we should have gotten the vaccine. And people will be able to go back to school. When you look on the last page on the figures, the projected cost of radios here, I don't know whether this was a mistake or what. You start with 35,925. The next one is 35,435. No, the next one is 35,435 and 40,000. Is this a cost per unit radio or there's a mistake in this figure?
Will you explain, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. The other one is 38,000. The next one is 42,182. And then we have the 37,460. Can we have this? Yeah, but a bidder cannot have 35 million per radio.
No.
That's 35 million. You read. It's 35 million. 435,400. That's why I was asking. Is it a typical error or what? Yeah? I think someone didn't go through this document. So, can we get to know how many are going to be procured at 33,000? How many are going to be procured at 35 million? How many are going to be procured at 38,000? How many at 42,000? How many at 37,000? Yeah. And may we know these companies?
And those will be benefited.
Yeah. But also, the minister here should come clear today. When they brought that matter to Parliament, he gave the number of radios we will have as per WUBO's statistics per household. Today you have come requesting for radios. Do you still believe in the figures you gave us on the number of radios the households have in Uganda? Vis-a-vis what you are saying today. Because if that is true, do we need these radios? We don't need them. Yeah? Because the other one we rather believe the WUBOs, because they do their research, it's a household survey, they go to know the number of radios this country has per household. Not per person, but per household. So where has this one come from? I need a clarification from him. I need a clarification from you on that. Yes?
The information I just want to add on to that is that these radios are going to be delivered in bits.
In
as
batches.
indicated here.
In batches.
We also want to know who will receive first and who will receive last. And therefore, at what stage do we intend to begin the process of using the radios to teach our children? Because if the others are coming in February, and the assumption is that our children are going to use the radios for purposes of learning. You give the others in December, the others in January, and the others in February. When do you intend to begin the real learning of long distance? Or you are beginning in January so that the ones who will receive in February, how do they cope up?
Honorable Win, it's not long distance, it's air distance now. Because by air learning. Air learning. So, Chairperson, without any explanation to those, it will be very difficult. It will be very difficult for us to pass this the way it is. It will be very difficult. Good enough, I belong here, I belong on the other side. I'm happy that I've been able to be enriched because we're asking them to give us the details of this nature. But without explanation or answers to that, I think it could be a good idea, but it cannot be now. After all, we know our term, with the program, maybe by next year we'll have gone back to the normal school program. So the radios can be supplied, can be procured if we still need them next year if COVID is still around. But what I think we need most now that the ministry decided to open school is, can we provide money to the schools to provide the basic things? It looks ugly. I go home, you are here, you are receiving calls. The schools are asking you for sanitizers. They're asking you for soap. They're asking for your temperature guns. They're asking you for these water cans. You provide some schools 1.5 million. This thing, and some schools are insisting that they want this ones where you step, not the one you turn the hand. You go down here. That thing's about 700, 800,000. Look at the ones which are in Parliament here. Then now we are jumping into this. Some schools have failed to open because of that. Why can't government provide money for that? Why can't we provide money for that? Sanitizers, soap, boreholes are not working. It's the MP who has become the government. It's the politician who has become the government. You must repair the boreholes. Because the boreholes are not working, they all broke down during the COVID.
You say you have bribed.
Yeah, you are bribed. You see, Chairman, what you are going through. I passed to your place, the Kayunga there, I saw. So, honorable ministers of finance, can we have this money to provide that first for the basic, to enable this people get to school? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable Chair. I just have additional information. Honorable Chair, you are aware that when the Minister of ICT provided information about networks, he actually singled out areas like Karamoja region,
The peak only in Kenya, the peak Kenya.
that side of the region,
And Kisoro.
for them and Chisoro,
The peak
to
Kenya.
see from Kenya,
Kapchurwa.
and also Sebei.
Sebei, yeah,
So I'm just wondering if the minister
How this FM radio can
are you
pick
going
it
to use the Kenyan now radios
to broadcast to them.
to broadcast our children in Sebei land and Karamoja
And Kisoro,
and Chisoro?
even
Then,
even Bundi Bush.
I don't know whether the Minister of Education you are aware that the teachers that you actually contracted to do the teaching on TV have not been paid.
They have not.
And when they demanded, you stopped their service. And even the media houses,
That is Honorable
when they put
Maingo.
in the invoice to be paid, they were simply stopped.
The contract
So
terminated.
now, really, which other media are you going to use if the one that have been doing is some job from March or April have not been paid? So which other media houses are you going to engage to help our children? For me, I think this particular project
Should be
Yes,
put on
yes.
hold.
we better really go with it, and then we focus on SOBs that will help our children when the schools open. Thank you.
And you can water down.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Today I'm going to balance the debate.
The vote.
But then I don't want to divert the House because we are debating singly the issue of the radio. We are not debating as we did yesterday to look at things in an omnibus manner. But today we are dealing with the radios, and therefore I don't know whether I will be able to balance properly.
Honorable Chair, you came with the first presenter was education, and because it's only one school radios. We have not reached the other areas. We are also waiting.
Yes.
So that's why.
So, Chair, I think we, as a committee, based on the presentation made yesterday by the technical personnel, and today we are receiving presentation from the political head of the ministry. I think it is important that we should take precaution, because now we don't know whether we should be guided by information given by the political supervisor or by the technical personnel. We may have to impose a rule that every document tendered to this committee has to be signed, so that whoever has presented it takes responsibility. It is very, very important, because the presentation made yesterday by the technical person, it was not in writing, you remember, and but he got away with it. And today, whatever is being presented by the political head is completely different from what he presented. So I think as a committee, who is guided by information from the agency, we are trying to help. If we don't have correct information, our decisions will also be based on errors. And I think we need to take precaution, and I hope our clerk will help us to see how we can enforce that practice, that whatever is presented must be signed, must be authenticated, and whoever has presented it must take responsibility in case any error emerge from there. Secondly, Chair, sorry I came late, but I have been able to quickly look through this document. This minister is a very reasonable person, and I've always found it very easy to work with him. And he is an educationist in the right ministry, and I think he's very passionate about education. We are asking him to use his professionalism to bring him one aspect which may be lacking in the ministry, and which has been lacking for a long time. The aspect of research, so that when we take a decision on education, we are taking it based on research of the practice of the past which has failed, and how we can apply the new concept which may or may not succeed. But right now, what you are presented, it is still lacking those factors that would help drive our education to a better future. I'm seeing it lacking. Because, Mr. Chairman, these documents should have been based on research. I don't see any research to give us, to guide the committee, to guide Parliament, and to guide the Cabinet on why we have adopted the radios and not other models, because we could have had several models. Yesterday, you remember, I brought in the model of what is it called? A laptop per child, which has been, you remember it was piloted in Rwanda, in Kenya, and so on. Could we try that? So it's just a matter of trial and error. But have we researched it? Even a laptop per child, have we tried it? Has it failed? Has it succeeded? Why the radio? Where has it been applied? Has it succeeded? Has it not? So why do we want to take it now? Moreover, taking advantage of the pandemic of the COVID, where a lot of pressure has been put on us in terms of emergency demands. So, Mr. Chairman, I find that even the presentation today has failed to earn positive statement which I had prepared for this particular topic. Because looking at the last page, the first delivery will be in December. And you know, December, as far as we are concerned, we are at the high voltage stage of our campaign. The children will all be at home. They will not be allowed to be in school at that time. And we are delivering 2 million radios. And we will keep it for all that. So are we not opening opportunity for people to misuse these radios? And I believe in the Bible, which says that lead us not into temptation. So we could be leading some of these public servants who should be handling these radios to temptation. Because you give me 2 million radios, what do I do with it? The children are not in school, the headmaster is not there, and you don't know whether there will be a new one or an old one. And some of the MPs who are aware of this radio may not even come back. A lot of confusion, temptation to divert this. So I think the timing is not now, as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, from the technical perspective, Mr. Chair, this committee should be guided by many things. One, when I entered, OO was making a presentation. And he said, by our rules, we cannot debate and pass a decision on speculation. Yes, we are aware that the Minister of Finance has made a request for a loan, but you and me are also aware that that loan request has not been discussed, has not been debated, has not been passed, and which therefore renders this request null and void. Yes, it does, because really, if Mr. Minister, if you could help us, it is our rule. Not only is it unforeseeable, not only is it unavoidable, but also you must confirm the funding. And you have confirmed to us the funding will come from the loan, which we are now confirming to you, sir, that Parliament has a right to reject it. And once it is rejected, then what? I'm just speaking simple English, except I'm translating it in Lao. So maybe I'm speaking my English Lao, I don't know. Exactly. But the truth is, you have made a request to Parliament, and Parliament has the mandate to scrutinize, reject, or pass. So right now, you don't have money to back this supplementary Schedule 3. That's what I'm saying. So if I've spoken anything wrong outside the box, tell me. Because I'm very careful in studying that act. That act, you can almost even ask me about it even when I'm sleeping. I will try to answer in a dreamy form, but I will tell you what exactly you are. So I'm telling you that the minister has already misled us. There is no money. And it's one of our conditionality that we cannot pass any unless it qualifies to the source of funding. Now, if it is going to be by suppression, it cannot be this magnitude. So this one does not qualify. However, there are other smaller emergency items which can be used through maybe vehement or whatever, because when you talk of sanitizer, temperature gun, I think that one we can provide, because they are small items. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to balance the boat by saying we could consider those small items which will enable the schools to reopen now, because there's no time. And but this particular thing of the radio is a non-starter. It needs to be researched. We need to be convinced. And I'm also asking the two ministers to convince Parliament, to convince your colleagues, the cabinet. You should not just pass things because it has come before them. They should also try and help us to scrutinize some of those requests they put before cabinet, because sometimes we are intimidated by saying Parliament has decided, and some of them are not even ashamed to say the president's directive, not knowing that even the president needs your guidance, your technical guidance. He is a political leader, yes, but he should take decisions based on facts and based on what is credible. So, Mr. Chairman, I beg to say that the issue of the radio is a non-starter. That figure on item 5 is definitely very disappointing coming from a professor. But we can forgive him because maybe the committee intimidated the technical person. But we hope that next time, before you make a presentation and you put your stake and personality in it, make sure you have scrutinized it and confirm the correctness of the document. So, Mr. Chairman, I beg to submit that I reject the issue of the radio. However, I would want to consider and support those emergency items which are necessary to get the schools restarted immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All the members have had an opportunity to say something.
There is something. Chairman, just allow me. Yes, Chair. Chair, now that you know what this committee must reject Because what's going to come next is that the minister will come and say, if we don't approve this, we shall pay penalties. Now, the accounting officer and the procurement officer went ahead and they solicited bids. I don't know whether they advertised, we have not seen the copies of what is here. But Chair, I want to make it very clear. I want to quote section 15, subsection 3, which says
what?
This
Public
is
finance.
Public Finance Management Act, as amended, which says an accounting officer shall commit the budget to the vote based on the annual cash flow plan issued under this section. So, Chair, the only thing I want to say is that I want to, because I know that's what the ministers will come next and say, that if this parliament does not approve this loan, government of Uganda will incur a cost. And I want to warn the accounting officer that should there be anything, then you will be liable under section 79M. Personally, so let nobody accuse the parliament that if we don't pass this law, if we don't give them this approval, the companies that have committed to supply a revenue that 340 million already will sue government and impose. If that is done, then the accounting officer who committed government without following the law will be subject to section 79M. That's what I want to ask. So we are not amateur state. We do our things professionally.
Can I give you more information?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, they should also address themselves to the PPDA Act, and they should look at the regulation. Regulation, if you need to, will give us a very good meaning. You cannot go for any brochure and open your own bids before you get the money. Because you need the user departments. These user departments must have got the money before you plan. Now, you have not got the money, what you have to measure, and the brother have gone ahead by opening up bids. What are you going to do? Let them open it.
Mr. Chairman, we are aware that part of this is international procurement. Meaning the suppliers are part of this time. And the practice is that if you are making money from there is need to verify what is being supplied. Whether it is linked, whether it is something wrong, whether it is something what is being described here. Now the question here is, how was it that these companies, how was the time verify that confirm that actually they are producing the kind of products we want? Yet even the dollars are lost, the airports are lost, and so on. How are we found? Okay. Okay. How was it done? I think probably they are right.
Now the sound, your voice is always very low.
I don't know how loud it can become.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll do the sharing of the
We are not getting you.
Open your mouth.
Or get 6 or 10 today. Yeah.
No, I think they have a right to do that.
No, next time.
For the sake of the professor. For the sake of the professor, let them.
First of all, Chair, I've said we'll be sharing the eating with my colleague here and our technical people. But before, Chair, I would like to thank the members for the concern and all the issues that have been raised. I'm happy to hear from all of you that you want our children to learn. And I'm taking it that Chair, there is a problem here. Chair, I'm taking it that you are all interested and you all love to have our children learn. You want us to do everything possible to make sure that learning takes place, whether there is COVID or not. Honorable Chair, you all agree with me that as we are planning for this financial year, nobody knew there would be an animal called COVID-19. So some of the questions that have been asked, COVID came, took us by surprise. You remember that even at the beginning we were not given a budget to manage that period of the term. But of course, with the creativity, we are able to do the little we are able to do. This is why some of us were asked to photocopy certain materials. The money we had, the little money we had, was able to provide for just less than 25% of the population needs.
Chair, can I, sorry to interrupt. Chair, procedure. Chair, we had preliminary discussions over the issue yesterday. We had detailed discussions over the same subject yesterday. Today we have had detailed discussion over the same subject. We don't need preliminary preambular statement or subsidiary explanation. We just want the minister to
this is the sample of the radio
address
here.
the issue and tell us what is it that you have not told us in this document, and then you leave.
Chair, may I ask my permanent secretary to come in at this stage? And
Finance.
Okay, finance first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and many of you have made contributions and requests that we can supply extra information, including samples of these radios, which I think the Minister of Education can do. There are like 3 questions which were asked by the Minister, rather by the Honorable Cecilia. The Honorable Cecilia Ogwaru said, what comes first? Is it the budget? Because the budget is the main budget and supplementary budget. Or is it the funding? Chair, as you know, the Speaker has ruled on this several times. And where we are normally stuck, we should always consult our Speaker to finalize it. Because in the past and up to now, we always approve the budget and then the source of funding comes after approval. And that has been the practice. And that's the commitment. Yeah. Because the logic is accept the activity by Parliament after you have appropriated, and we have stated that the source of funding will be this, then we'll go ahead and source the funding. So that's what has been happening, and that the Speaker can rule over that. She has ruled before, and she can even rule in this case. So the second point is on the issue of procurement. What happens if the Parliament does not take a decision? What we want to confirm to this committee is that there will not be any.
If you allow this to go unchallenged by you, we are in danger.
Yes.
There is a big difference between passing a budget and passing supplementary budget. The supplementary budget, we have specific rules. And this committee, through your chair, Mr. Chairman, we have been able to push the ministry against the wall to agree on 3 fundamental principles which must be adhered to. And one of them is to confirm source of funding. Now, this minister is now saying it is the Speaker to rule over it. Never. The Speaker cannot rule against the law.
No, but
so if you allow this to go, then we are all in danger. We are wasting time.
No, but what man? If I can make a difference. Let me just really make this, because we are all members of Parliament.
We are the committee. We have come to appear before the committee.
the authority is yours. Yesterday we were with the minister who failed to answer enough of this question that we put up.
No,
And he said he was going to produce the ministry, was going to bring the ministry to give us a detailed information of what we are. What the ministry has come with the detailed information, and you all know what the detailed information has given us. What is that the minister is again trying to defend? Honorable Minister, can you tell us if you have an interest in this kind of?
No, no. I think the issue is this one. When we presented the supplementary budget, we told you the source of funding, and I want us to be clear about it, because from my understanding, what you are asking, should we first bring to Parliament a loan and approve the loan?
Yes.
Or should we bring first a supplementary of activities and then we approve the supplementary, and then after we will go for a loan?
What does the law say?
Okay, what does
comes first?
Okay, the question is,
What does the law
what
say?
does the law say? The technical people can tell us here. What the law says.
What does the law say?
About that.
According
The law says if we are.
You are not a lawyer.
Eh?
You are not a lawyer. For me, I know. You are my son. You are an
Okay. Give information, Chairman. Give information, then I can. Yes.
Listen, the chair.
Yes.
That's budget.
That's now budget.
Correct.
Now when we talk about appropriate, the unit that we are satisfied, so revenue,
Correct.
and increase in the budget. Now in this case, the source of money is not clear. So it's done with the
Yeah, that's but the source of funding, which we have stated here, is domestic borrowing. That is the source of funding. No. Then chairman, why? Then chairman. No, the question would be, chairman, why would you invite me here? If you wanted to pass approve the loan, why would you invite me here?
You said it to us.
Chair procedure.
Why would you invite me here?
Mr. Chairman, in response to his, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
yes.
You need to the house. Yes.
Yeah.
And the issues of Karamodia, where there's even no
Yeah, so the PS can answer. Yeah. Yes.
In the interest of time, which my secretary first respond. If there is any that won't come back, I'll come in.
Chair, before the PS comes, there was a specific question which I and all the government put to the minister regarding the number of radios in this country. He gave us a figure which he quoted from UBOS. Today they have given us a different figure. We want to know the correct figures of the radios Ugandans have.
We noted your question.
Yeah, so I need that. Because that one is from me.
Just a brief one. For the minister, because Mr. Chairman, as you gave me, I have been in the Committee of Education for the last 10 years as a member of Parliament. And a lot of issues have been coming out. From my brothers and me supporting me. And there are so many pressing issues including unfunded priorities that are more pressing than radios. My I was seeking from the minister What is so special that is causing this interest of having money now when other issues are not being given attention? This ministry needs 20 billion that was given by the president for the private school teachers are not having. That money has not yet been So the minister should tell us here, not only why you plan, but we have some finance. What is that so pressing interest that money can be so fast that has been paying the ministry to get all those desires? They have been money and they have not been coming. And the minister should also get it. This question is our Honorable Chairman. I asked it through you, to give this committee as an educationist, both of us, whether there is any results tangible coming from the use of radios. Okay, that's okay.
And you should tell us the measure for Karamoja and the survey where there is no radio signal.
Please respond under duress.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through my minister, first of all, I want to state that the Minister of Education and Sports has not committed government yet. I know that section, sir, and I'm a lawyer.
Your name?
I'm the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports. So, what does it say? It gives different options on when you can commit government. So we wrote to the Minister of Finance when we got a cabinet extract on the commencement. And we got a letter from the PSST to say, proceed, but do not sign until you are advised to do so. This was an emergency, so I went ahead and have not signed. So until I have signed, that's when I commit government. So I know that provision, Mr. Chairman. And I think that's why we're here.
Very good.
The other thing is on assessment. Have the radios worked anywhere else? And what have we done, Mr. Chairman, in respect of the materials we put out to find out whether actually we are working, they are working or not? Mr. Chairman, who have been going out, she is our Director of Education Standards. She will be making a statement. We have discovered that actually radios would work if we also added assessment, because the children lost interest somehow because there was no assessment. So what are we doing? We have started what we call peer support. That the teachers, now that the schools have opened, those in the vicinity, and even the learners themselves, they go out to find out whether there is impact on the materials we are sending out. And secondly, Mr. Chairman, we have a World Bank report here. The World Bank, during COVID, has come up with a report, and they are supporting learning on radios because they have discovered it works. Mr. Chairman, in this region, they are supporting Angola, they are supporting Bangladesh is not here, but Burkina Faso, Ghana, Mali, Mozambique, yes, and Rwanda. Yes. Mr. Chairman, I'll just give you the document because it has...
we deal with our clerk. Excuse me, PS. The clerk.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. It will show, they actually say down there that anybody can access that document on the web. That's why I was asking you. Mr. Chairman, it has been said here that the ministry got money for home study materials approved by Parliament. Mr. Chairman, I'm the accounting officer of the ministry, and I've been there now, this is my 4th year. Since we started this program of continuity of learning during the lockdown, we have not got any resource from Parliament for home study material, let alone any other support for continuity of learning. So I wanted to go on record, just in case it was passed, Mr. Chairman, we shall be happy to have that money. Mr. Chairman, the other thing is the figures. I'm going to request the chairman of, when we were given instructions to procure radios, Mr. Chairman, I've had people alluding to bicycles and other, yes. We were very cognizant of what has happened in the past. So we formed a committee. That committee has been chaired by a very able lady, Dr. Kedwes Triagenda, and we went out to do not only the procurement, but how we'll distribute them to avoid the challenges that have happened in the past. Mr. Chairman, she'll be making a statement basically on the prices and the process we went through. And we think we have tried to cover the gap. So it's true, my officer yesterday was intimidated because, as you know, that's why he gave you those figures, because these figures, Mr. Chairman, are...
Can we be clear? It is a torture chamber. To intimidate and also
Mr. Chairman, I want to be...
Can he substantiate?
Mr. Chairman, that a torture chamber is a very tough, you know, this can be a torture chamber.
Yeah.
But you must have a lot of experience and courage to appear here, because you have seen what they have done to my minister here, Mr. Chairman, this afternoon. So you have to be, you are forced even to say things which are not entirely accurate sometimes when you are coming in for the first time. So no one is changing the figures, Mr. Chairman. These figures were derived from a competitive process within, you know, the resources that were available to us. And what are these resources? We got a list from Ministry of Trade and Industry. We tried what we could to have a complete list of suppliers. And we advertised. And those are the results we got. They are in bid documents. They are in our evaluation reports, which we can submit, Mr. Chairman, for the consideration of this committee. So I want you to excuse my officer. He's a very able officer, but he could not get those figures off his head, just like that. Mr. Chairman, can we provide money for sanitizers? Mr. Chairman, as a ministry, we put a request to the Minister of Finance when we were considering the reopening of schools and the capitation for the candidates. Minister of Finance was very, very kind to us, because they have actually provided 1.5 million per school to buy, you know, those fast items. And this money will also be supplemented by the money we are getting from the Global Partnership for Education. They are also giving us an extra 1.5. Now, depending on what kind of dispenser you want to buy, Mr. Chairman, for us, we can only provide the basic. Now, when they find that their MP looks like he can also give them, you know, a higher version, then they run to Honorable Cooper and say, give us some extra money. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, government has provided the resource.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This information I was given by the head teachers and the district officials that we are, because they refused to open, so I was asking them why they are not allowing that school to open. They said, no, we have guidelines. This is the type of dispenser we must have. That's why I was raising it. Okay. So it's now good that we have clarified that. Then I will go back to them and say, you lied to me that this is the specifics of the type of dispenser.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, 1.5, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, the money was released by Ministry of Finance when they were releasing the second quarter release, and we also requested the chief administrative officers to issue immediately the warrants, to process the warrants so that the schools can access the money. I want to trust that now, of course, by now, the man has got these schools. And he should, come in. Yes. Mr. Chairman, materials for broadcast. First of all, we have stated, it's true, NCDC has prepared home study materials now to complete the entire syllabus. And they have also transcribed, I don't know whether that's the term we use, from, these written materials to audios. And now these audios can be played and played and played. So those audios we have used some very, very...
Yes, they can be played on what?
Mr. Chairman, they will be played on radio. They will be played on radio. Mr. Chairman, they said we shouldn't even talk about these radios because the committee has already ruled. But the kind of radios we are procuring, Mr. Chairman, the specs are tailored to learning. Why? Because one of the requirements for these radios is that you can record these lessons and play them back. That's one of the requirements. And when someone was asking for the sample, when we initially got the first samples, because we have been working with the Ministry of ICT to develop the best spec for the radios that would help us deliver learning.